Hey everyone, I'm Colton. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about why I feel that lower resolution sensors are still usable in this modern day. I'm going to be highlighting images from an 8 megapixel camera that I've been shooting on as sort of my evidence as to why I feel that these sensors can still produce amazing images and why as photographers we could still use them even today. So I do think that in the past I had sort of an idea that megapixel count was super important. There was a threshold, couldn't go too high in the megapixel count without sacrificing ISO quality, couldn't go too low in the megapixel count because then the image would just not be a high enough resolution and it would look bad. And so there was a threshold that I operated in. And then more lately, I've started to shoot some older cameras, one of which is an 8 megapixel camera, the Olympus E500. And in shooting this camera, I started to get some images that were really appealing, even just the raw files. And the raw file images looked better than the ones I was getting off of my main camera. And so I started to shoot this E500 for even some of my projects that I would have normally shot on my full frame, higher end camera. I started to share some of those images from those projects and people loved them because really the image itself, the subject and the way I did the lighting was really interesting and people loved what the picture was of. And multiple people reached out saying, hey, once you finish this project and you produce whatever it is, whether it's a photo book or, framed pictures, whatever, let me know. I want to buy a copy. I had people tell me you could sell these. And so I realized nobody is seeing this and thinking, oh, great image, but it's only 8 megapixels. Should have shot it on a 40 megapixel or a 50 megapixel, whatever. Because they just like the image. And it got me thinking about, well, how many megapixels really is important? How many megapixels is useful? Because I realized when I look at an image on Instagram, in an art gallery, in a photo book, whatever, I'm a photographer and I don't think about how many megapixels that image might have. I don't think about the dynamic range that the camera had or what ISO it was shot at, right? I just look at the image and I think, do I like it or do I not like it? And if I like it, I keep looking at it. And if I don't, I move on. And I realize that's what everyone else does. Maybe if we're feeling a little more of an art critic, we might question the subject and if the background enhances or detracts, what kind of color palette was used, the lighting setup. We might wonder those things and critique it for that. But even then, I still think we don't think about megapixel count or any of that other stuff. That, none of the specs of the camera are important in the image. And oftentimes, I don't think we would even notice if an image was lower in resolution unless it was placed next to an image that was higher in resolution. And you could see right there in front of you the difference. And even then, I don't know that that would then make you think, well, I don't like this other photo now, right? Another really great analogy to this is with audio, right? I'm not an audio engineer, but I do know that there's different audio qualities. There's MP3 versus WAV file. There's 44-100. I think the other one's 4800 kilohertz. There's an audio quality there. There's 9600 kilohertz, something like that. Again, don't hate me. I'm not an audio engineer. But there's these different qualities in the audio file itself. And maybe if you're an audio engineer, you're someone very much in that industry, you can hear the difference. The rest of us can almost guarantee we can't. We just hear the song and we decide, do I like this song or do I not like this song? We don't think about, I wonder what microphone they use to record this. I wonder, if this is being played to me at 48 kilohertz or 148 kilohertz, whatever. You know what I mean? Is this an MP3 file or a WAV file? I have no idea. I can't tell. And honestly, the song sounds the same to me personally as a non-audio engineer when I hear it on my computer speakers, my car speakers, my headphones. It all sounds the same. It's the same song I'm used to listening to. And the only time I can really tell the difference in quality is if I listen to it on something horribly shitty or something amazing. Then I can probably say like, oh yeah, I hear that difference. But all other forms, you would have to stick the two different speakers right next to each other and play the same song, one and then the other, for me to be able to decide if I hear a difference. And then even then, I bet you could do a control group where you play the exact same quality on both speakers and someone would still say, yeah, I hear a difference, because they're expecting to hear a difference. So I guess my point being is that unless you're comparing, 1.2 megapixel image to a 100 megapixel image where the difference is staggering, otherwise, I think all the other megapixel counts pretty much blend in together. Especially when you consider that most images viewed today are going to be viewed small. Nobody really prints images really big. Maybe every once in a while you do. But otherwise, you're mostly sharing it on the internet or on Instagram, where most people are viewing that on a 7-inch screen. If they're using a laptop instead of their phone, it's probably a 13 to 17-inch screen. Most people aren't using desktops anymore. If they are, maybe 24 to 27-inch. That's still not huge. That's not a gallery, massive image. And then making that even more challenging to differentiate is that you could take that 8 megapixel image and use a high-end AI enhancer to make that image higher resolution, where maybe you could blow it up a little bit bigger. And that's the technology that exists today. What about a year from now, 5 years from now? How much more convincing can that AI make that image? So I guess my point being, and this is just my opinion, is that 8 megapixels is more than enough in today's world. I would argue you could just strictly shoot on an 8 megapixel camera. And if you're taking images that are interesting, no one's gonna know. No one's ever gonna bring it up to you and say, oh, why are you shooting all these great images on such a low megapixel camera? Because they're not gonna know. They're gonna just think that it's a great image and you must be shooting it on a high-end camera. And I also would say, if you're a talented photographer, we always talk about, doesn't matter what camera you use. And I very much believe that. You should be able to get a compelling image on any camera that you shoot it with. Now, obviously, different cameras offer different capabilities that are needed in different situations. And you might need certain autofocus performance for shooting sports. You might need certain ISO performance if you're shooting a lower light, corporate event. If you're doing headshots that are going to be up on a billboard, maybe you need a certain amount of megapixels. But for general purpose, I think you can pretty much shoot on anything and have it be amazing. And if you're really good at what you do, I bet you could take a picture on a 8, a 6 megapixel camera, whatever, and have people pick that image over your friend's 40 megapixel image because they like the subject, how you did the lighting, how you shot it, and it's more interesting and appealing to them than whatever your friend shot on his 40 megapixel camera. I really believe that. Different tool for a different use case, but generally, the megapixel count doesn't really matter, especially with AI. So that's just my personal opinion. The images that I'm sharing in this video are all 8 megapixel from the same camera, and they're images that I compared to similar images off of a 24 megapixel camera. Those are still somewhat close, but that's enough megapixel count difference that there should be a difference in the quality, and there really wasn't. only comparing them side by side and really looking closely, could I be like, yeah, I guess this one looks better in resolution. Otherwise, they look pretty much the same. And not side by side, there were times where I was like, man, this 8 megapixel sensor looks like it's way higher resolution than it actually is. So I'm challenging my own notions, and I'm challenging your notions. Let me know what you think. Drop your opinion. As I have shared my opinion, share yours in the comments below. If you see someone share something, you want to get in on the discussion, jump in there. Keep it civil. This is not life or death. We're all adults here. But yeah, that's my opinion, and I will actually continue to use this particular 8 megapixel camera for some projects that I'm shooting. These are projects that I already know what the end result is going to look like, and it's not going to be a 40 inch picture up on a wall. It's going to be in a photo book or in some smaller prints. So I know it will definitely work perfectly fine. But if I want to challenge some AI, I might try to use an AI to enhance the image, blow it up and see what it looks like. That could be a fun video also. With that being said, if you enjoyed this video, if you thought it was interesting in any capacity, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't think it was interesting, well, then it is what it is. But if you would like to see more content like this, I am producing videos weekly, so if you want to stay in the know, hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, for now, I'm Colton, and I'll see you in the next one.